As I say, I work as part of Platform. For the last 10 years, we've been looking at the oil industry, particularly the oil and gas sector as it's based in London, and the impacts that that has throughout the world. And one of the biggest impacts that it has is climate change. It also has impacts on workers' rights, environment, democracy and human rights. But climate change is one of its biggest impacts, and what we've been trying to do is to look in detail at the web of institutions that drive forward that climate change as they're based in London. We call it the carbon web. It's the web of companies and banks and advertising agencies and so on that surround BP and Shell and work together with BP and Shell as a web of institutions to drive forward oil and gas extraction, which drives forward climate change. Okay, we're all very well versed to think about our consumption, our CO2 consumption. But let's look at other ways in which other issues are dealt with in society when we're trying to overcome untenable social or environmental issues. Let's take, for example, the issue of overfishing in the North Sea. Now we have a problem in the North Sea. There's too many cod being caught. The cod are running out, and so on and so forth. How does the government deal with it? They deal with it in a pretty simple way. They don't go around and ask everybody to not eat cod. They actually go and close down the fishing industry. They go to the fishing ports and they say, right, we've got to take these amounts of fishing boats out of production. It's the same. The EU does it. The government does it. What's interesting to my mind about that is that in the face of a need, need to make a change, in this instance to do with fishing, we need to change from the fact that we're overfishing the North Sea. The change is born, the burden of that change is borne by a certain group of people. That's the fishing community. To my mind, the key of a lot of this issue comes in the slogan, and I'll just say the statement, which is power is the ability to ensure that other people carry the burdens of change. Power is the ability to ensure that other people carry the burdens of change. Faced with the problem of overfishing, it's the communities in the fishing industry communities who carry the burden of the change, not the people who are buying fish in the supermarket or at fish and chip shops. Why is it that the government doesn't look at the producers and go, they have to carry the burden of change? And part of the reason is simply that the producers in this instance are far too powerful. Let's look at BP. If we take both BP's processes, i.e. that's the emissions that come from it flying its staff around the world or running its refineries, those emissions, and we take the emissions from the burning of its products, i.e. the petrol that it sells, the gas that it sells, and so on and so forth, and we put all those together, its CO2 emissions in terms of the global is 5%. The CO2 emissions of BP globally are twice that of all the UK citizens put together. 62 million citizens compared to this company. Get that? Twice the CO2 emissions. There are some nice little refinement details, but in essence, that is the issue. This company emits twice the amount of CO2 that the entire citizenry of the UK. Now, the company once let on about that, actually. It was on their website and they took it down pretty quickly. And now you will see in all their materials that they talk about reducing their own emissions from their processes, i.e. the amount of emissions from their refineries or from flying people around the world. But they don't talk about the sales from their products. We've been here before. They claim that that's not their responsibility. But that's exactly like the tobacco industry. It's a bit like the tobacco industry saying, we have a new policy, we understand about the impacts of climate change, of smoking, cancer. We're going to ensure that all our staff don't smoke on the premises. Nobody is allowed to smoke on the premises of BAT, or British American Tobacco. It's a bit like them saying that, and forgetting the fact that the impact is also on the people who buy their products. We've been here before, it took us a long time to fight that one, and there are cases going through in the States about the responsibility of the supplier. BP is responsible for 5% of global CO2 emissions. Boom, that's the issue. Twice that of the CO2 emissions of the UK. So, I want to think about that. I talked about the fact that right next door there is a global bonfire. What I want you to think about is at this moment, absolutely as we sit here, there are about 20 747s being filled up. 20 747s are on the tarmac as we speak, right now. 1,500 gallons per minute are being pumped into them. That fuel is coming through hydrants, it's passing under the field just here. It's going from this depot in Buntsfield. This is filled up, the tanks are filled up there. It runs, as we're sitting here, there's also fuel running from Corriton 40 miles east of here. As we sit here, it's being refined in Corriton in a cracking tower. As we sit here, there's a large crude carrier carrying it across the sea. As we sit here, there's oil being pumped across the deserts, the fields, and the mountains of Azerbaijan, Georgia and Turkey. As we sit here, the oil well is working in the Caspian Sea. The process of creating this global bonfire here is happening absolutely as we speak, and it happens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's a constant process of shifting oil from one part of the world into the other. It's a constant process of moving stuff from deep beneath the surface of the earth into the sky above our heads. Essentially what we have here is a carbon transfer system. One huge piece of kit which transfers stuff from deep under the ground into the atmosphere above us. And it is, in this instance, in the story I just described to you, largely owned and managed by BP. If you look outside the window, and I don't know where Edwin has gone to look at the planes, but at this moment, if he's looking at the planes, and if you go and look at the 747s as they're taking off, consider them, look very carefully. Don't look at the body of the plane, but look at the engines. Look at the jet engines. In the first 600 seconds after takeoff, they burn 200 gallons of Jet AB octane fuel. If you look at those engines, go and look at them after this, look at them and you can see the geology of Azerbaijan, Nigeria, Kuwait, Algeria. You can see that geology going up in smoke. You can see the lithosphere being pumped into the atmosphere. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing the raw material of the world being thrown into the atmosphere, turning it into gas, turning this geology into gas. It is the mother of all global bonfires just here.